Hello, and welcome to episode 157 of the Nintendo Fun Club podcast. This is a podcast about Nintendo and about fun. I'm Ryan, and joining me, as always, is John.
Good morning, Ryan. Happy New Year. This is our first show back in 2018.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, is this the start of year 6 of Nintendo Fun Club? Or I think year 7 of Nintendo Fun Club.
Year 6.
Year 6?
I think, yeah.
All right.
Year 6.
Okay. Well,
Ish.
happy year 6 of Nintendo Fun Club.
Yeah, definitely. 2018 is going to be a big year for us.
Is that right?
No. It's going to be about the same. Business as usual here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nintendo Fun Club podcasting is my business, and business is good.
Yes. Nice Megadeth.
Yep.
Reference
Megadeth.
there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Killing's my business, and business is good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of killing it, Nintendo Switch sales. We don't usually do the sales stuff on here, but I thought it would be good to announce or discuss a few of these milestones that the hardware has hit, because they are pretty significant. So the system did very well in 2017. And this is pulling from an article over at Nintendo Life. It has either tied or by this point probably surpassed the sales of the Wii U in Japan. So yeah, like in Japan, the Switch has sold in 10 months, pretty much what the Wii U did in its entire lifespan.
And that was like a big talking point in the months leading up to the Switch release and the first couple months of the Switch release. It's like, well, we're hoping Switch is going to be pretty successful, or it seems like Switch could be pretty successful. Wii U is a total bomb. It's not a question of will Switch do better. It's a question of how quickly, and that milestone or that litmus test, I think, was a talking point for a lot of people all this year. Is like, oh, it's going to do way better, but can it actually completely outsell the Wii U in a single year? And seems like the answer to that question is yes now, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It also has in Japan, once again, the Switch has beaten the PS2's year 1 sales in Japan, which is significant for a couple of reasons. First, the PS2 was released in a time period where console games were, and console gaming was much bigger in Japan than it currently is. And also the PS2 would go on to sell, be the best selling video game console of all time. So that is definitely pretty surprising. That was the one that was really surprising and significant to me. Like you said, it really early on, it was more of a matter of when the Switch was going to outsell the Wii U, not if. But the fact that the Switch outsold the PS2's year 1 is pretty impressive. So I mean, that's not saying the Switch is going to become the best-selling console ever or anything, but I still think it's a pretty impressive milestone.
Absolutely.
And another impressive milestone is that over here in the States, the Switch has become the fastest selling console in the United States. So they have sold in these 10 months here 4.8 million units. And the title was previously held by the Wii, which had sold 4 million units in that same time period.
So that's crazy. That's crazy to think that the Wii. I mean, it just doesn't. The Wii was such a phenomenon. You know what I mean? And I just remember like everybody. I remember my father-in-law calling my wife up wanting to get a Wii. Like everybody wanted the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking to me, really, that like it's outsold the Wii in the first year, just because like it doesn't. I know the Switch is successful and I know people are loving it, but it doesn't feel like everybody's uncle and grandma and dog and like everything is like trying to like track down a Switch like it was with the Wii. But that's cool. I mean that's pretty incredible because like I said, the Wii was this like major phenomenon.
Yeah, and I mean I do think it is worth noting though that like um like the Switch has definitely had some hardware shortages, especially for like the first 5 months or so. Like it was pretty hard to get one of the systems, but now they're pretty readily available, and also I do feel like the Wii shortages were a lot more challenging. Like I mean, I remember it being like over a year before I actually saw a Wii in a store.
Yeah.
And I know that shortage went on for a really long time.
So maybe the cultural like takeover of America by the Switch is not what it is not like as strong as the Wii was, but because there's just been more opportunity for people to buy the Switch, it's been able to sell more in the first year. So still though, it's pretty crazy to think that it's even comparable.
Incredible.
Yeah. I'm looking at a list right now of the top selling systems of all time, and I am shocked to see that the Wii is 5th on the list. I thought maybe it was number 2, right behind PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I don't have a list in front of me, but did the Xbox 360 and PS3 eventually pull ahead?
No.
No.
According to this Wikipedia chart, Xbox 360 sold 84 million. PlayStation 3 sold 83.8 million. Or less than 83.8 million. So that's a bummer for PlayStation 3. I almost feel like I should just go out and buy 0.2 million PlayStation 3 so it could tie with the Xbox 360. But
not a hill to die on.
Yeah. And the Wii sold 101.63 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was 15 million ahead of the other two. And then the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, Xenos Lives. Xenos.
Xenos Saga.
The PlayStation sold 102 million compared to the Wii's 101 million.
Ooh.
So there's a 1 million difference between the original PlayStation and the Wii.
Wow.
And then it's Game Boy and Game Boy Color as a combined system at 118 million. Nintendo DS family of systems at 154 million.
Oh man.
And PlayStation 2 at 155. So it's funny there. You've got like PS2 and DS essentially sold the same number of systems. So those would be like basically the two best selling of, well, they are the two best selling of all time, but I would say relatively like basically sold the same, So there's those two systems. Then the Game Boy's sandwiched in between there at 118 million. And then right below that is PlayStation and Wii, which are also essentially tied for like number of systems sold. So you've got Sony and Nintendo with the top 5 there.
Wow.
And selling very similar numbers of hardware with their two biggest platforms.
Interesting. Yeah.
And all that is only tangentially relevant to this conversation, but it's just that like I in my mind, the Wii is just this juggernaut that like there's almost no comparable, like platform that could ever be as popular as the Wii. So then hearing that, I mean, it's a good soundbite to release. It's a good headline. Like, well, I guess fastest selling ever in United States history. That just speaks for itself. That just is a fact. You're not only competing with like, or I guess like Wii system shortages are not the only issue there. It's like no system has sold as quickly, as the Switch. So I mean, that's pretty impressive. But anyways, just to be able to compare it to the Wii and Wii sales numbers, like in my mind, that's just like, oh my God, the ultimate. But I guess if you take a look, at the numbers, it's not the only, big time player in the game, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Yep. It'll be interesting to be having this conversation 5 years from now to see how everything shakes out.
Yeah, it will be. And it's like, I look at the numbers of how many systems sold for some of these consoles, and I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I mean, like 155 million consoles sold. Like, how does that even, like, I can't even fathom how the Switch would sell. Like, how many has it sold so far? 10 million roughly worldwide.
Isn't it like
11 million?
13-ish?
Is
I
it
don't
there?
know.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe it is because the Wii U is at 13.5 lifetime. But um, anyway, it's just like
Yeah.
it's going to sell 10 times that in the next like 6 years. That's just like, I don't know. But I guess if it continues to trend upwards, we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. And it depends on if the system's going to get uh like multiple revisions and all of that as well.
Yeah, I guess that probably definitely helps the Game Boy and Nintendo DS systems climb that chart a little bit, huh? All the new
Yeah.
releases and colors and upgrades and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Like
yeah,
I mean, I just bought two DS Lites this week.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean those were refurbished, so they don't count in the sales or anything, but
I
I
should,
don't
I
know.
should.
I always wonder, like, what if like you still could buy older systems? Like, I wonder how those would do if there was just like, every Target had a couple PS2s there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw that Kotaku article that they interviewed a lot of like stores that sold retro games, and the big holiday seller this year was the Nintendo 64.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, you have to figure the Fun Machine was released in '96, right? So that was 21 years ago. So if a kid
mm,
was, 4 or 5 years old then, now they're just coming into that age where, like, maybe they want to go grab a retro system. And I see kids at school talking about N64 and like the original Smash Brothers and stuff all the time.
mm,
And I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, to get a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One or even a Switch is, $300 to $400. And, a lot of kids
mm,
do have one of those or more too. But like getting a retro system like an N64, you can get it for, I don't know, what is it? What does a N64 deck cost? $70, 80
yeah,
bucks,
60, 70.
60, 70. So, I mean, you can go to GameStop, trade in a few games and spend $50 of your own money and probably come away with a system in a game or two, And if it's the one that you grew up playing when you were a little kid, it's your first, console that you really loved or whatever, then I think it makes sense from that angle.
Yeah, for sure. Um, cool. So, in other Switch news, kind of moving aside from this whole sales thing, we got a very cool game announcement that I'm super excited for, and that is Mercenaries Saga Chronicles is coming to Switch. And I have talked about the Mercenaries uh, Saga games on this podcast before, especially two. And these are very, very cool games that were released on the 3DS eShop. And I believe they were originally mobile games. And they're from Circle Entertainment, and they essentially play like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre, that sort of isometric turn-based strategy RPG style. And they're really, really excellent. I super enjoyed playing through Mercenary Saga 2, and now the collection of I believe the first three games is coming to Switch sometime soon. So that's really, really exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, I only vaguely remember these games being on the the eShop. So I would imagine there's a lot of people like myself that are not super familiar with these, but maybe with Switch being so popular right now and people looking for stuff, it seems like if you have a smaller indie game or just like a game that maybe went unnoticed in the past on other platforms, you have the opportunity to sell a ton on Switch. I don't know how long that'll last, but you do hear about smaller developers selling, 5 times as many copies on Switch as they do on other platforms and stuff. And a lot of times I think even with older games that are coming out, and finding a new life on the Switch.
Yeah, and I feel like the strategy RPG genre is pretty underrepresented right now on the Switch. I mean, you have Disgaea 5, which NIS just recently announced that sold 200,000 copies on Switch already, and they are very pleased with those sales. So they're going to continue to make Switch a focus for them, which is very cool. But yeah, other than that, you don't really have this kind of like strategy RPG on the platform. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. I will definitely be getting it day one, and I'm excited to revisit these games on that system. Other news, the Retrobit releasing a couple new games, actual cartridges, and they are the first one is for the SNES, and that is R-Type Returns. And R-Type Returns is going to include Super R-Type and R-Type 3, the third Lightning. Both those games were originally released on the SNES, and now they are coming back in a like dual pack cartridge thing, which is really cool for a few reasons. First of all, they are from Irem, and I think a lot of us were kind of, Irem's made some really great games over the years, and I think some of us were concerned once some of their stuff started disappearing from the Virtual Console a few years ago, and digital services, and we haven't really heard or seen anything from them. So this is, this release, and it's like a really pretty incredible package. You're getting stickers, a manual, a pin, lithographs, all this stuff in the box. But it's cool just that, in some fashion, they are still releasing games. So that, yeah, R-Type Returns for SNES. And then one that's very unexpected and very cool. Like R-Type, Super R-Type and R-Type 3, those are very cool games. But, they were released here, and they're still, pretty available. But this next one, Holy Diver, which does not have anything to do with the Dio song, but it is a action game, side-scroller, released on the NES. Well, it actually released on the Famicom. It was never released on the NES, and it's getting a release now, a packaged NES release in English. So that's pretty cool.
Sorry, I've heard people talk about Holy Diver before, but I'd never really read much about it. So before we started recording, I was reading the Wikipedia page for Holy Diver. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the story conceit or the plot for this game?
I am not.
Okay, I got to share a couple of choice lines with you. Okay.
Ooh.
First off, I'm already sold with the first line in. It's the 666th year for the world of magic, and the Crimson Kingdom is facing destruction at the hands of the Black Slayer, Demon King of the Underground Dark Empire. That sounds awesome, right?
Wow, okay. That is awesome.
Hold on.
Sold.
Realizing that his days are numbered, the 16th Crimson Empire, Ronnie IV, decides to entrust his 2 infant sons, Randy and Zach, to his faithful servant Ozzy.
Oh
With
my
Slayer's
God.
forces closing in, Ozzy, Randy, and Zach enter another dimension in the hope of eventually bringing light back into the world. Does that sound familiar to you? Do those names sound familiar to you, Ryan?
So Ronnie James Dio.
No, not Ronnie. No, Randy.
Randy. Oh.
So Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads, his former guitar player.
Yeah.
And then Zach, who would Zach be? I'm not sure.
Zach Wild? No, that would have been before him. Huh.
Who was the? I don't know who the replacement guitar player was for Randy Rhoads after Randy Rhoads tragically died in that helicopter accident. But I'm thinking it's somebody named Zach. But look what they have to do. Meanwhile, Black Slayer has increased his empire over the countryside, so they've got to take on Black Slayer. So yeah, which sounds suspiciously close to like Black Sabbath, I think, right? So
yeah, and I mean, Black Slayer. I wonder if that's like referencing Slayer,
Black Sabbath and Slayer together.
The rise of thrash metal, and maybe that's the enemy of the
classic rock Sabbath. Metal dudes. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's a lot of metal references.
Yeah. So I thought that was awesome. So sorry to derail what you were doing there, but
no. I'm actually looking through the Black Sabbath members. I'm not seeing a Randy Rhoads.
No, he wasn't in Black Sabbath. He was in Ozzy's solo band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was never in Sabbath. Okay. And then what was the other name? Zach?
Yeah, Zach. I'm trying to look up like the members of Ozzy's band.
Yeah. Band members. Zach Wild. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Zach Wild. So you were right.
I mean, well, yeah, I guess that was 80s. Is it Zach with 2 Ks?
Yeah, it is Zach with 2 Ks.
Okay, so it is Zach Wild.
Right. And you'll see oh man. Okay, here we go. List of Ozzy Osbourne band members. It's a whole separate page. Yeah, Ozzy. Zach Wild joined in 1987. Randy Rhoads died in 82. So yeah, I mean, like I believe Randy Rhoads obviously was like the lead guitar player for Ozzy until he died, and then looks like Zach Wild would have been the replacement. I don't know if somebody else stepped in between or not, but yeah, looks like there was at least one other dude who stepped in, Jake Lee, but he didn't get a name in Holy Diver. But anyway, yeah, those are I guess those are the 2 most memorable guitar players for Ozzy are Randy Rhoads and Zach Wild. So it's pretty sweet.
Huh. That is awesome. And then, obviously, the reference to Holy Diver and the Dio song, and Dio was in Sabbath at some point.
And the color art or the cover art is amazing and very metal, very 80s metal, and yeah. So yeah, this is the one that is really, really exciting to me. However, I was doing some reading, and Jeremy Parrish had posted on Twitter that he was sending back his Retrobit cartridges. Yeah, his Joe and Mac, and apparently the reason behind that was that the cartridges that Retrobit manufactures use some system damaging components, potentially system damaging components. So I actually asked him on Twitter, like, how do you know when with these like or these like modern cartridges, how do you know like which are the good ones? And he linked me to this article on that I'll link in the show notes.
It's Nerdy Pleasures, is the name of the blog. And there's an article here that is called Flawed, Risky, and Dangerous Devices for Your Retro Consoles and PCs. And this article kind of dives into, some of the what to watch for, and some of the components that can damage consoles. Did you have a chance to look at this?
Yes,
John?
Yeah, I've looked at it. I have to say I got lost a little bit in some of the technical details, but it's cool.
It's a very deep dive.
It is, and it's cool because it's fairly comprehensive, it seems, in terms of different like types of retro, game hardware or whatever. So I read mostly about the flash carts and multi carts, and then a little bit too about the GameCube stuff and like the EverDrive type things, because that's what I've never really bought any of that stuff, but I've considered buying some of those things. So that's what I kind of focused on, and I guess it comes down to the voltage on the chips, right? In the game cartridge re-releases, the new cartridges.
Yeah.
And if the voltage is not right on the cartridge, it can fry out or mess up the board on your retro hardware, on your original hardware, which is obviously, it's not worth getting a reproduction of a new game if it's gonna destroy the console you would play it on, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's a bummer too, because like the NES that I use is a Retrobit AVS, and I mean I love that system, but I'm super curious how specifically Holy Diver, that's the one I'm like most interested in of these new ones. Like I really hope that they use the proper chipset with the proper voltage and transceivers and all of that, because I really want to buy that game and play it on my AVS. But obviously, like I paid, like the AVS was like almost $200, so like I definitely do not want to damage it.
Well,
so.
Yeah, that's one of those things. It's like I don't want to say that that's like almost would be worse to damage than a retro console, because like you don't want to see like old stuff getting destroyed. Obviously, like there's only so many Nintendo Entertainment Systems out there, and the ones that still exist, you don't want to see getting fried out and destroyed and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, man, you just paid $200 for that thing, or I know you have a what's the name of the system from Analog, the new Analog system. You have one of those pre-ordered, don't you? The Super Nintendo. I
don't have it pre-ordered yet.
Oh, you don't? Okay, neither do I. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get one eventually, but yeah, don't have it.
Okay, yet. Same for me. Just okay. But anyways, say you buy one of those and it costs $200 or whatever. Like to have that fried out or destroyed by one of these things would be terrible. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't see the Holy Diver and stuff's not up on their shop yet or anything. So I don't know. I guess it's too early to tell what they're doing with it cart wise, but yeah.
Yeah, we will see, but I'm glad that this was like, brought to my attention, and I think anyone who's into using original hardware or these updated versions of the hardware and buying these new kind of cartridges, like I had definitely heard about I knew that a lot of the multi-carts were like full of flaws in both the way that they the way that games run, and also I had heard about those damaging systems, but I really had no idea that some of these like brand new, like officially licensed recreations could potentially do that as well. So that was the news to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not like an expert on electronic. Well, I'm for sure not an expert at all on electronics and stuff like that. But It does seem, it seems like something where it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to get the right voltage on a board. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure why that would be, if it's like an oversight that like now that people are paying attention to it. I don't know. I would think, I guess in the overall scheme of things, maybe not that many people are going to know about this or whatever. Like, yeah, there's a blog post and, you know, Jeremy Parrish and, you know, Ryan are posting about it and stuff, but I don't know if like that many people are going to know about this issue. But at the same time, you would think like for a company that's like re-releasing these things, like that would be really bad, you know, to get, I don't know, to have the reputation of like, oh, well, we put out cartridges that mess up systems and stuff like that. So you would think like now that, you know, this issue is coming to light, that they would, I don't know, hopefully be sure to only use the right voltage chips and stuff in the future. But maybe they're hard to, maybe they don't produce those voltage chips very much or something. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, who knows with like all these kind of like outdated components and stuff, like maybe it's just super hard to get them manufactured or to find them or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just something to be watchful of, I guess. Something I'm certainly going to be paying attention to in the future. And yeah, that's about it on that. So I guess now we can jump into some of the games that we have been playing. John, what have you been playing over winter break?
Ooh, I've been playing Zelda, which I didn't put in the notes, but I've been playing Zelda, and actually over the last week or so, every time I could play games, I played Zelda, except for after I got the other new game that I got. But yeah, like I had been in a pattern over the last few weeks where it was like, oh, I'll play like a half hour of Zelda, and I'll play a little bit of Splatoon, and I'll play some Mario Odyssey, and I'll play, you know, some other thing. Like just kind of jumping around between a bunch of different things. But I got back into Zelda in a big way. Breath of the Wild about, you know, earlier this week, and played for an hour or two almost every day. And I'm still just loving that game. I'm not at 120 shrines yet, so I don't know why, but I'm kind of like I want to clear all 120 shrines before I jump into the DLC. So I haven't even started the DLC yet, which hopefully I'll do soon. I'm getting closer to my 120 shrine mark. But I'm at the point now, and maybe I shouldn't admit this, or maybe this is like bad form or whatever, but I'm at the point now in Breath of the Wild where like I've got close to 100 shrines. There's some shrines left, and I used my Hero's Path mode to like find some shrines that I hadn't found yet, you know, the green line that shows you where you've been and stuff like that. But at this point, I'm just going through like a list of the shrines in each area and like looking at my map and seeing like which ones don't I have yet, and looking up to see where to find them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So rather than like, because I don't know, I feel like I could turn the system on and walk around for an hour before finding a shrine at this point, and that's not really what I'm looking to spend my time on so much.
Yeah, because you've already put like 75 plus hours into the game. Like,
yeah, I'm either 95.
You've done your exploring.
I'm either 95 or 100 hours in at this point.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, I've done my exploring, exactly. and that's the thing. Like, you know, we talked about it a bunch on the show earlier this year, or last year, but that was the thing that was so amazing about that game, was just like every time I turned it on, it was just like, okay, I've never been here. I'm just going to walk around and find every little like, you know, secret thing, or find all these shrines will pop up. And it was just a sense of constant discovery for so much of the game. But now that I've been everywhere, it's not really a feeling of a sense of constant discovery. It's more like just walking around, mostly seeing stuff I've already seen, hoping to come across something new. That's not quite the same feeling. So I want to see all the shrines and do all the shrines, but I don't want to like, I don't know. And I know I could do it because you have the shrine, the sensor or whatever on your Sheikah slate, but I don't know. It's just, yeah. So anyways, I'm looking up the shrines that I still need to find, doing those shrines, which is fun. And, but I'm just like super, super loving it. Our friend Chris was here over winter break, and he stopped by, and he was looking at my Breath of the Wild file. He doesn't have a Switch, so he wanted to see how it runs on the Switch. He played the game on Wii U. And he was looking at my armor sets and stuff, and he was like, you only are like a level 12 on all your armor? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Am I able to get higher than that? And he's like, I don't even know how you beat the game. Like, so it was just funny. Like he was looking at some of my armor and some of my gear and being like, "Oh man, you don't even have like a lot of upgrades and stuff that you should have." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's working okay for me. I don't know. I don't know." Because I'm not really reading. Like as I've played the game, I haven't really been reading anything about like, I haven't been reading guides or any of that kind of stuff. But at this point in the game, I do just want to like get help in finding those shrines. And then one other thing I'll mention about him being in town, he gave me the best housewarming gift. It's amazing. He bought me this gifted me this. I don't know what you call it. It's like I've got sliding glass windows, like they go out to my backyard, in my main room in my like living room or whatever. And he bought me this thing. It's like it sticks on the window. What do you call that? It's like a little ornament kind of that sticks on the window.
A static cling?
I mean, kind of, yeah. It's glass, but it sticks on the thing with like a suction cup. Like we used to have one down there of like a cardinal or something. It's like a decorative thing that you put like on windows. Okay. But he got me one that's a Korok from Breath of the Wild.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'll try to find the link to it, and I'll take a picture and put it on Twitter. But if I can find the company that sells it, that'd be cool to put in the notes too. But it looks really cool. It's like super nice. So, it's just like it's such a little classy, like such a classy little thing. You know what I mean? Like it just fits into the decor of your home, and it doesn't like really call attention to itself or anything. And if you're like, if my mom comes over or something, she'll see that thing on the window and be like, "Oh, that's just like a cute, like stained glass, like little gnome thing or something." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just looks, but for those of us,
little does she know.
Yeah. So then, like, she'll come over and look at it, and then me and my son will like look at each other and like silently high five, like that's a Zelda thing,
nice.
So yeah, exactly, yeah. So, anyways, that was cool. So yeah, been playing that, and we'll continue to do so. The only new thing that I've played, which is not very new at all, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Let's stay on Zelda for a sec.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like so far behind on like shrines and all that. Like, yeah.
I thought you were ahead of me.
No, I'm way less than 100. But I really don't know how I spend my time in that game, because like I don't really have any of the milestones, but I still have like 75 or 80 hours into it. Like I've beat the Divine Beasts, but otherwise I really don't know what I do when I play that game, because I'm at like 65 shrines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but I know that is a lot though. Like if you have 65, then you probably have like at least 5 in every, like, what do you call it, area of the map or whatever. Like.
Maybe. Yeah. But I mean, I guess I did most of the story stuff. Like I did all the memories and finish the game. But anyways, so that's kind of where I'm at. But I did still start the DLC. And I was texting you and Kevin about this, that that DLC, not very fun at the start. It's like actually just not fun. Where with like this whole, you have to like take out these camps of enemies, and it's like super arbitrary that for some reason you have to take them out with this certain weapon that takes out any enemy with one hit, but you can also only take one hit. So you'll be just in there like hitting moblins and stuff, and then one will shoot you with an arrow from behind, and it's like game over, and then you have to like run back to the camp and do it over again. And like it's just super arbitrary, and it doesn't like fit with what that game is about at all.
Yeah.
And so I found that really frustrating. And then like on the contrary, like each camp you defeat, a new shrine comes up. And the shrines, there's 4 of them, and 3 of them are like basically jokes. Like they're super simple and like really easy to get. I got through them like on my first try, like in like 3 minutes each. And then the 4th one I did was like ridiculous. And like had so many challenges, and you can only take one hit of anything. And like I played it for like an hour probably before I beat it. And it's just like, and it really only takes like, it takes like 3 minutes to beat if you do everything perfectly. And I was just really struggling with one part in particular. And so that ended up taking me like an hour. So like it was just this really like weird difficulty spike. And
yeah,
again, like doesn't really fit with how the shrines work in that game. So yeah, my initial impressions of the DLC is it's very hard and very weird. Um, but I apparently it gets easier and then it becomes like normal after the part that I've gotten through. But after I had finished all that, I was just like, I'm kind of just done.
You don't
for
want to
now,
do
and I
it.
haven't
Yeah.
picked it up again.
Well, that all sounds
But
pretty lame. Although I have heard, I thought I heard like that the whole like one hit thing totally sucks, but like you can save often, like you can save a lot. So
yes, yep, that's what I started doing. Like every time I would defeat a single enemy, I would
you
just pop
save
in
so
and
that you can
save.
spawn
Yeah,
back up. Yeah. Okay. So,
yeah.
because that's it's sounding like well, I forget what that area was called in the first DLC, where you're going like level after level. Where they took all your, it was kind of like Eventide Island, where they took all your stuff away at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you have to get through so many levels, and it was like, oh my god, I'll get through like 7 of them, but I can't save until the 9th one, and I die on the 7th, and you got to start all over. And I didn't end up going through all that. I only got through like the first milestone where you could save, and then a few levels after and died. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll do this later if I ever feel like doing this. So, yeah, no, that's not what like we loved about Breath of the Wild when we were playing it initially, right? Is like, oh, the insane challenge.
Yeah.
Although I think when they talked about it on that Nintendo Power podcast, is it Fubiashi and Onuma? I think they were kind of saying like, well, we figure like the DLC is for somebody who's done everything in the original game, so they're going to want like an extra challenge or something, which not necessarily what I want in DLC. I just want more of what I loved about the original thing, but I can kind of also see that perspective, so I don't know. But I'm curious how many more like shrines and how many more new things there would be to do after completing, because I know there's at least a dungeon in addition to those 4 shrines. And then I don't know if there's other new shrines as well, but then I guess if you still have a lot of shrines to get from the original game, like, you know, you can get the motorcycle and you know, cruise around, and that might make like shrine hunting and stuff easier going forward. So that's kind of cool.
The motorcycle does look legit fun.
And you haven't done the story stuff in the DLC yet either, right?
I've gotten little bits of story through there, but I haven't gotten the big like cutscenes or anything.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it sounds like there's probably still hopefully when it's all said and done with the DLC, it'll be like a sour taste from the beginning, but overall,
apparently it does get like much better, but I was just like, it's like, I'm just gonna play something else now.
I'll do the DLC before the next time we record, and then come on and just tell you how easy all that stuff was, and that you were making a big deal out of something that was, for a pro gamer, was no big deal.
That's totally fair. I mean, it is possible that I'm not that great at Breath of the Wild, which I think there's some truth to that, and also I am a bit rusty, having not played the game in a while. So.
I'm totally kidding, by the way. I'm not very good at video games in general, nor do I think I'm excellent at Breath of the Wild. So I would actually, I would bet on you in terms of any competitive gameplay we might participate in. So.
Well, speaking of competitive versus Super Mario Brothers.
Yes. Did you pick up this game?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the other new thing that I've been playing just a little bit. I probably played it for like a half an hour only so far. But it is Super Mario Brothers. So, you know, it's something I've played before. It's the versus arcade version of Super Mario Brothers, which I was excited about it. Number one, it's like Super Mario Brothers on your Switch, which is the only way I know of to play Super Mario Brothers on the Switch. So that's pretty cool. And then number two, like I do remember a hotel that I used to go to all the time in Springfield, Illinois, that I would rent Friday the 13th for the NES from the hotel main desk. They had a Super Mario Brothers arcade machine there. So I remember playing Super Mario Brothers arcade there, which was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had like some memories of like, I always thought it was weird. Like, oh, I have this game at home. And then also there's this arcade I can play this version of the game. So, but yeah, like I've obviously played Super Mario Brothers a million times, but I'm very much like I think most people are. I'm very much like go straight to all the warp points and like get to like World 8-1 within like 8 minutes of turning on the console. You know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily the best person to identify all the little intricate little changes in Super Mario Arcade versus like the NES version of the game. But that is one of the cool things about this version of the game, is that there's a bunch of differences. Like enemy placement is different in some cases, like entire levels are swapped or changed around, and it's generally like considered to be a harder version of Super Mario Brothers. So when I played it, after downloading it, I in World 1-2 went straight to a warp that took me to World 5 or World 6.
4.
World 4?
Yeah, because you can in 1-2 you can go through 2, 3, or 4 in the warp at the end when you jump over the wall.
Okay.
And then from there you can, I think in 4-2 is the next warp.
Okay, maybe that took me to World 6 then. I think I ended on 6-1. I think I ended playing on 6-1 if I remember correctly. But even that, like, to me, it's just such a, I don't want to say a blur, but like you just almost like sleepwalk through like the warping and stuff. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily picking up all like little differences between the two different games, but it's cool to like have that version of it out there. And it's just one of those games where like, yeah, if there's a different version of Super Mario Brothers, I want to have it, and I know that you have played many Arcade Archives games on the Switch. So, you're very familiar with like the menus and the different options and stuff. But yeah, I totally turned on one of the filters, which I thought was cool. I usually don't do that in retro games and stuff, but I did play it with one of the kind of visual filters.
Scan lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool how there's like so many different like iterations of that. You can kind of adjust it to be the way you want it to be and stuff like that. So it was a little weird playing Super Mario Brothers with the face button, like the arrow buttons on a Joy-Con, because I didn't use a different controller to do it. But I did pretty well. But we need some like retro game Joy-Con released from Nintendo very soon,
with like a really good D-pad.
Like
SNES D-pad.
Right. And then I'm trying to hold like the A and B buttons and stuff, or the, I don't know, so the B and X buttons or whatever. And maybe my hand is bumping up against a analog stick once in a while. And it's just like, like I want some like dedicated retro game, like 2D game sticks. Joy-Con though, because like you want to play the game. Like we talked about on the last show, I have my, what do you call that thing? My 8BitDo SF30 Pro gamepad, right, with a D-pad on it and stuff, and like that connects to my Switch. I could have played it that way, but like this game, when I was playing, I just really wanted to play it like handheld. I don't want to like put the Switch in tabletop mode, pull out a separate controller, and start playing this game necessarily. I mean, it's cool that I have the option, but yeah, I want those Joy-Con. And just real quick, Ryan, and then I'm going to throw to you, as we say in media. I'm going to throw it to you in just a second.
In sports.
Yeah, yes, we do say that. Hey, I'm going to throw to you, bro.
The classic football maneuver. I'm going to throw to you. Love it.
Nobody knows those. Nobody knows that lingo better than you. The 8BitDo controllers. We talked about them for a few minutes on the last show. I've played more with mine. It's cool. Definitely make sure you update the firmware when you get it. But we were talking about like, oh man, should I get the retro receiver? Should I just buy a different controller that comes with the retro receiver? Here's the thing. I'm loving the controller, but probably sooner than later, I am going to buy an SF30, not the SF30 Pro, because the SF30 is the one that does not have the sticks on it, right? And I bought the Pro because I don't have a Pro controller or like a separate, like a second set of Joy-Con. So if I have a friend come over and we want to play Mario Kart, like up until now, it's been 2 Joy-Con held sideways, which is the most awful way to play Mario Kart. So now that I have this controller, like this could totally work as a second Mario Kart controller, right? It's got all the buttons you need. It's got the shoulder buttons, stuff like that. So that's why I decided to go with the Super Famicom, Super NES controller that had the sticks at the bottom. But when you're playing Super Nintendo games or old games, it's actually definitely preferable not to have those 2 sticks at the bottom of the controller, because even playing a little SNES Classic with the SF30 Pro, like, again, like I don't want those sticks down there. Like my thumbs will bump up against the sticks sometime, and it's just not like, it's fine. It definitely works, and it's better than using a Joy-Con with like 4 separate face buttons instead of a D-pad. But like it's worth it to have one that's just totally dedicated to that style of game without those sticks and stuff getting in the way.
Cool.
Throw to you.
Yeah, I caught it.
Touchdown.
Yes. Sports.
Goal.
We did it.
We like sports, so we're like a pro sports. Like we're a couple pro sports guys.
I'm definitely pro sports entertainment. That is for certain.
Well, I just wouldn't want that little bit that we did, that little skit that we just ad-libbed there. That was that we improv
skit.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that to come across like, oh, sports are dumb, I hate sports. Like, it's more just like, we don't know very much about sports, much more than like sports are lame, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, we totally hate jocks. That is for real.
Yeah. Well, you can only take so many super wedgies before you.
I've had enough swirlies in 2017. Thank you very much, Keith.
All those book checks in the hallway. My God.
Oh man, I hate getting booked.
Not only do you not know your sports lingo, like you don't even know your like childhood lingo. Like nobody called it getting booked.
We called it getting booked.
No, you didn't. Like,
yeah, we did. I totally would get booked.
You and your nerd friends, maybe. You're supposed to say booking it. Like if you're running, that's like what you would say.
No, like when you get your book slapped out of your hand in high school.
No, that's not. Like you'd say like, let's book it back to your house and play some Dreamcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that.
Yeah,
for sure. Like, but no, getting booked is when someone slaps the books out of your hands. It totally is.
That's a Twin Village thing, I guess.
Right. I guess, but yeah.
All right, throw to you.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, so versus Super Mario Brothers. I did notice even in like some of the early stages that some of the question mark blocks held different items or no items, which is pretty interesting. Some places where you'd think there'd be a power up would just be like a coin. So that's pretty cool. I haven't I heard that a lot of the major changes to the stages happen in like the late game, like levels 5 and beyond. So I haven't really played much of those. I kind of did similar to what you did and just like played around with just the warp zones and just kind of the typical quick run. But yeah, apparently some of the Lost Levels-esque changes happen in the later stages, which I'm not sure entirely what that consists of, because when you think about like what is there, what was introduced in the Lost Levels or Japan's Super Mario Brothers 2, you have like the wind, which is the worst thing ever. The poison mushroom, which I don't think that is in the game. I think the wind might be invisible blocks, might be like the invisible blocks that like you run to make a jump and then you hit a block and fall in a pit. A classic Lost Levels trope. I'm not really sure, but I do know I don't like any of that stuff because I don't like the Lost Levels. So it'll be interesting to see. But from the start of the game, it is pretty similar. And I did really enjoy what I played of it so far, because it's Super Mario Brothers. That game rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other stuff I played over break. I ended up playing a ton of um Splatoon 2 and kind of surprising myself, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I played both of those online a bunch. Because they're both games that are just like really easy to play when like you're doing something else, like watching something on TV or like hanging out talking to Lindsay or whatever. They're just like really easy pick up and play type games, and both of them have been really fun. Um, after the holidays, because there are so many new Switch owners. So you've got there's kind of two benefits to this. For one, it just means there's more people playing these games online. So that means, you're connecting to games quicker. And I definitely felt that in both of these games. Like I felt like I was just always like, as soon as I started it up and hopped online, like I was just like quickly placed into a game every time, which was really cool. And also, you're playing with people who are like new-ish to the game. So, it's not like jumping in and then all of a sudden you're in a game with, people who have put 500 hours into it. You're playing with people who are pretty fresh. So I think it kind of like levels the playing field a bit. And I don't know, it was really fun kind of jumping back to both of those. Like I feel like initially um I was a little bit sour on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe when it first dropped, because it was so familiar, and it was this game that like was just, it felt so recent, and we had just put so much time into on the Wii U. But now, like, a few more months out, like I feel like I can kind of appreciate it more, and it doesn't quite feel as familiar, because I've like really barely played it on Switch up to this point. And certainly not online. So it was kind of nice to, I think it was just like the right time to kind of go back to it, because the game is like super, super good. Like it's, probably the best Mario Kart ever. And yeah, like the online functionality is really good and everything. It was just a matter of it just being so familiar when it originally came out in like April.
Yeah, it was like the very end of April, I think, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, just for some reason, it's just a few months can make a big difference in something like that. And like the game still looks really good, and again, it's like so fun to play. So yeah, that's actually been really fun to revisit over break. Yeah. What else? So I've also played an indie game called Blossom Tales. Was released on the Switch eShop a couple weeks ago, and I'm only about like 2 hours into the game. I have played through the first dungeon, but essentially this game is very inspired by Zelda, specifically the 2D top-down games, specifically A Link to the Past, and a little bit of A Link Between Worlds. So have you like seen this game at all, John?
Yeah, I've seen it and heard it talked about on a couple of podcasts and stuff, and I'm definitely interested. So yeah, I've seen a little bbit, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, like if you're into like old school Zelda, this is probably going to be your jam. It I do like how you have very similar items. Like the first things I got in the game were like bombs and a bow, and you use your sword and you map different items to different buttons, and it's very, very, very I mean, it's kind of like beyond even an homage. Like it's kind of exactly a Link to the Past. Um, but you also can your like items like bombs and stuff. You have like essentially a magic meter for them that like goes down and goes up, which is pretty much exactly like in A Link Between Worlds. So you're not like collecting bombs or having to buy bombs from shops or whatever. So that's nice. And then you find like heart container pieces, and your life is hearts and all of that. Like I mean, it's really pretty much exactly 2D Zelda. Um, and when you go to you have your overworld, and um, then you have your dungeons, and the dungeons use, at least in the first dungeon I've been to, use kind of your typical Zelda style puzzles. You're pushing objects, you're um, shooting arrows through flames to light things on fire. Um, yeah, it's very much what you'd expect from a Zelda dungeon. My my major gripe with the game so far um, has been like it sometimes just feels like a little bit too much. I don't really mind um, the kind of taking mechanics and aesthetics like exactly from Zelda. Like that's I mean it's done, I would say it's like done with the right intentions and done with the love. Um and that's cool. Like my favorite games ever are like the 2D Zelda games. So I'm into it. Um but I feel like sometimes the game's just like a little bit there's just a little bit too much going on. Whereas like I feel like in some areas there's too many enemies, so you're like fighting a little bit longer than I would like to in some areas. Um I feel like the game kind of goes back to the well a few too many times with some of like the puzzles. Like you know, usually in Zelda games you do um a type of puzzle once or maybe twice, and it kind of like scaffolds and becomes like a bit more difficult when you do it the next time, and then it kind of like moves on to something else. Whereas I feel like this game just kind of like will keep throwing the same puzzle at you in different areas. um and I in the first dungeon, like I did the shooting the arrow through fire thing like a lot of times. And it almost just feels like the game's just trying to be, just it's like it's A Link to the Past, but like more. Um, and like it's a lot more, and everything just kind of takes a little bit too long. Whereas like it feels good, and then you're like, okay, I'm kind of ready to be done fighting enemies in this room. Like I'm kind of ready to stop doing this puzzle. And then like even at the end of the first dungeon, the boss battle, like you figure out the pattern, you use your items. But again, it was like, okay, there was definitely a point where I'm like, this boss battle is taking a little bit too long. Like I've done the same thing like two times too many kind of thing. And that was kind of the vibe I got throughout the game. Um, like I know you know, that's a weird thing to be complaining about. Like, oh, this game is giving you too much, or you know, it's giving you extra value in extra playtime or whatever. But um, but I feel like it just kind of kills the flow of the game in a way that like you're like, oh man, this is feeling like Zelda. This is feeling like Zelda. Okay, I'm ready to stop doing this thing.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I mean, that's really my only complaint with it. And, you know, that could improve later in the game. But like after finishing that first dungeon, like I felt like kind of exhausted with the game and was like, and just kind of set it off to the side and haven't really touched it since. But I mean, and that may just be me.
Well, see, I was going to say like this sounds to me, it sounds very similar to complaints you've had about a lot of Zelda games also, like in the past, you know, like it just seems to be and I think I tend to agree with this perspective on your part. Like I would like dungeons and the experiences to be a little tighter, a little quicker. Like I'm usually not for like, I'll make the thing super lengthy and you know, time consuming, and you know, I'd rather do something once than do it 6 times, you know what I mean, within any given gameplay experience. So I feel like I'm right there with you in terms of that. But I would also say that like I feel like there's a lot of like Zelda games, I guess more specifically 3D Zelda games, but a lot of Zelda games where I think have shared similar sentiments that a lot of Zelda fans might not though. So if you're like a Zelda fan listening to this and Ryan's thinking it's going a little, you know, too much, a little too long, a little too hard or whatever, from what he would prefer, yeah, I think I would probably agree with you on that, Ryan, but I bet there's a lot of Zelda fans who would be like, no, this is great. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and a lot of people seem to feel that way for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely a complaint I have about 3D Zelda games in particular, in the dungeons and stuff. I always have felt like those have been just a little too long. Same thing with the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild. Like those were kind of my least favorite parts of that game.
Big time.
And I definitely prefer like the shrine type experience.
I say dungeons for 2D Zelda and shrines for 3D Zelda going forward. That's my.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely like your mileage may vary type thing on here. That's just kind of where I'm coming at it from. But I mean, overall, like the game's been super well received. I know a lot of people really like it, and so it definitely should be on your radar if you're a fan of Zelda, specifically the Link to the Past style.
Cool.
So okay, I guess like the last game, which I definitely probably feel like I most certainly am in the minority on here. I have been playing a bunch of Sonic Forces on Switch, and this is not a game that was very well received at all by critics. Not really a game that was super well received by a lot of Sonic fans either, and a lot of Sega fan sites that I read as well. But I keep going back to this game. You know, I played through it and finished it in a couple days. I think the like main campaign took me less than 5 hours. It's a pretty short game if you just want to experience, you know, the if you just want the story, which is something else. Yeah, if you just want that, you can. And I played through it at the beginning of the game. You have a choice between either normal or hard difficulty, and so I'm like, oh, I'm definitely doing normal, because you know these games can tend to frustrate, for sure. So I did normal, and like normal is pretty dang easy. Is kind of what I've found. And I think that's kind of cool, actually. Like I feel like this is a Sonic game that's like super accessible for younger players, and for, you know, fans of the Sonic mythos and fans of the Sonic story who may not, quite have the skills and dexterity that are demanded from something like Sonic Mania, which we talked about this on the podcast, but I think Sonic Mania is a really hard game.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end. Like
I never finished it. I need to go back and play more, but like it got hard.
Yeah. I actually jumped back into Sonic Mania over break and started going through and doing like time trials in it of the stages, and it really is a hard game. Especially coming off Sonic Forces. So,
and speaking of too long, I feel like some of those Sonic Mania levels could have definitely been a little shorter. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and my biggest complaint: if it's game over, let me restart on the act that I died on. Do not make me play Act 1 every time.
Yep.
Please, Sonic Mania 2.
That'd be a great patch. Can we get a patch?
That would be great. I'm like, at this point, I'm just hoping for like that improvement in Sonic Mania 2, or like just give us the option. Like maybe hardcore fans want to always replay Act 1, but like give us a baby mode or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Just, oh my God. So anyways, so I finished the game and I felt fairly positive about it, which, definitely does not align with the review scores and the general consensus, I guess. And so like I kind of left it feeling pretty okay. And then I kind of didn't know, like, am I done with this game? Where am I at with it? And then I found a few days ago, it kind of like crept back into my subconscious, and I was like, man, I could play some Sonic Forces right now. And despite having all these other games, like I haven't, found all the moons in Mario Odyssey. I haven't done all the shrines in Breath of the Wild. Like I'm, not at max level in Splatoon 2. Like I've Skyrim, like all these indie games, all this stuff. I'm like, that's all well and good. All these like greatest games of all time. But actually, I want to play some Sonic Forces. So, that's what my body was saying. That's what my body was telling me. So I've actually gone back to Sonic Forces, and I have been replaying stages on hard. All the stages that I had previously finished on normal, I've been replaying on hard, and there's a few benefits to this. For one, you can actually, when you play the game on normal, your times for finishing the stages do not go up on the online leaderboards, which, with Sonic Mania, it does have like the time trials, and you can set your own times and compete against your own times on the system, but Sonic Mania does not have online leaderboards. However, Forces does. So I actually have 2 other friends on my Switch friends list who have also played Sonic Mania. And so I've kind of been competing, and I have been just replaying stages to try to beat their scores. So shout out to Casey from Sega Radio and Mr. Panda, who's a Nintendo YouTuber. Those are the 2 who have played it. And so far through stage 4 or 5, I have beat every one of your times, guys. So
throwing down the gauntlet here. Wow.
However, that's not, I found, my very best has turned out to not be that impressive, because even on stages where like I'm like, oh wow, I can't imagine getting a better time on that, like I'll go to the worldwide leaderboards and be like 22,000th place. So yeah, but that's like, I don't know, that's a cool I really do. That's one of my favorite parts about 3D Sonic games is, the score, trying to beat your score, trying to beat your time for the stages. And it's what's really cool about Forces is all of the stages are just like, they're basically just like a dot on an overworld. And the stages are like maybe 2 to 4 minutes long each. So that does make them like really replayable. And um and something else that makes it really fun is, you don't have lives in this game. So, you die, you just restart at a checkpoint with like no penalty. So really, the only like punishment for dying is it's taking time off um, you know, your quest for a better time. So so when you're actually like playing through the game, it's when you're just trying to play through for the story and to finish the game and to see everything, like dying is just NBD um at all. Like you're not even punished as much as you are in Mario Odyssey. Like you don't lose anything. So I think that's really cool, and it was a nice change of pace from kind of the frustration of Sonic Mania, which again, like Sonic Mania is definitely the better game. Like, don't get me wrong, like I definitely prefer Sonic Mania, but I think it's a brilliantly designed game. But I do think there are some like pretty frustrating elements of Mania that make it kind of not quite as fun to go back to outside of like the early stages. Like as good as I think some of the later stages are in Sonic Mania, I don't think I really want to like replay them because they were so frustrating. But yeah, like Forces, I've really been enjoying going back and replaying some of the stages. And you do deal with some of like the janky 3D Sonic gameplay, like that does surface here. This is not as polished as Mario Odyssey or even Mania, like not even close. Like there are parts where you're just like, oh, that was I don't even know what happened with the camera there, or like I'm not really sure why I died there. That stuff does surface. And it's really just after I had posted, I posted after I finished the game, I posted on Twitter and was like, I finished Sonic Forces. I kind of dug it. And people were like asking me like, oh, should I buy this? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's a lot of games are like a no-brainer for me to like recommend. Like, oh, if you like this, you'll definitely like this. But with Sonic Forces, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, look at the reviews. It has like 57 on Metacritic or whatever, and I don't know. Like, I can't really recommend it, but I can say that like it clicked with me. And I've also had fun going back and replaying. One of the other benefits from replaying stages is you can unlock more items for your avatar, because one of the big things with Sonic Forces is you create your own like character to exist in the Sonic universe, and which is pretty cool. You can like, is this going to be like a bear-like creature or a cat-like creature? And then you can dress them up, and you unlock a ton of accessories and stuff, and it's really cool. There's DLC that's free right from the get-go that unlocks a bunch of like Sega themed outfits. There's like a knight's outfit, a super monkey ball. You can get the eye ears and shirt and stuff. Persona 5 outfit, and what I have my avatar dressed up like is Jet Set Radio. So that kind of stuff, like that goes a really long way with me. Sega fan service can really blind me to flaws of anything. So, but then you can unlock even like more kind of like more generic items and stuff to really, really customize your avatar, which is cool. And so I do feel like this is a game with like a lot of replayability, even though like the main campaign is pretty short. And I wasn't sure, but like I said, I've definitely found myself going back to it, and I don't know, like I've just like now that I've played through the game, like I know what the issues are. I know how like certain segments feel a bit stiff, and and some segments feel like they're playing themselves, and I know where all that stuff is, and I've just kind of accepted it. And now I'm just trying to like beat times and that sort of thing, and I'm having a good time with it. But yeah.
Well, you said that you weren't sure if you would recommend it or not, which I think is definitely probably the right way to go. But I would recommend watching the video that you put up of your time playing the game, because, I had like read the talk and kind of like taken the temperature on Sonic Forces, and it didn't seem to be very good. And then I was watching your video where you were just kind of like clicking around between levels and playing some stages and stuff. And I was like, this looks pretty fun. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot going on the Switch right now, so I'm not like rushing right out to get it, but I went from disinterested in Sonic Forces with no intention of ever playing it to like, yeah, I don't know if there's a good sale or if I just run out of stuff to play and I'm in the mood for a Sonic game. Like, I would definitely consider grabbing this now. And that's just based on, watching you play it. So as much as like it's good to hear you, talk about your time with the game on the podcast here and stuff like that. Like, I think if you're somebody who's like, I like Sonic, should I play Sonic Forces? A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. Like, check out Ryan's video, because I thought that was a good primer, and like just you could just watch like that video and then have an idea of if the game's for you or not. So I felt like checking that out, like watching your video of your time with it, definitely gave me a much better idea of whether or not I'd want to play it.
Cool. Well, thank you for the plug. Yeah.
I get a share of that YouTube money as well. So
yeah, really, our videos
it's self-serving,
monetized.
Yep, monetized.
For
yep.
Sure. Just making bank on those.
Yeah, it's hard not to when you're pulling down viewing numbers like we are. So yeah.
Oh yeah, 6 views. That just paid for my kids' college. No, actually, none of our videos are monetized. So no. Yeah. So yeah, just full disclosure there. We do not ever want to make money off those. So they are just what they are. Yeah. Let's plays.
Yeah. Hey, nice Sami Zayn shirt. I didn't notice that until now.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Thank you. That is one of my 2 Sami Zayn shirts.
Nice.
That I own. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll link to that video in the show notes. I'll embed it in there. So yeah, check it out. I would say, $20-$25 is probably the sweet spot for this game. I do think it was a good call. They released it at a budget price to begin with, of $40 suggested retail. The Switch version isn't the best looking or running version of the different ports. But I do think like, I could have bought this game on Xbox One and played it on my Xbox One X, and I can almost guarantee though that I would not have put as much time into it, and I would not just pick it up and play it as much as I have on the Switch. So, if you want the better looking, better running version, PS4, Xbox One for sure. But I don't know. I think it's a really good game. Like I was saying, it's a really good. The stages are like 2 to 4 minutes long each, so I think it's a really good game to have on Switch and just be able to pick up and try to beat a time on a stage. Spend 10 minutes playing, and it's a really solid experience for that.
Plus, Switch is going to be the home of Sonic the Hedgehog for the next 5 years at least, I think. So might as well get your Sonic games there.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance of that. I've heard some un substantiated claims that Forza's sold the best on Switch, which would make sense to me, kind of. But I mean, that's also like weird because, you know, Xbox One and especially PS4 have such a larger player base. Like there's so many more of those consoles out there. So that was, I don't remember what the source was for that.
But
so
it's
just
with
a grain of salt.
Sure, but to me it seems like if how do I put this? There's a pretty small subset of people who like games that have not spent the last 15 years just like scoffing and puking everywhere at the very mention of Sonic the Hedgehog. And I feel like the large percentage of those people who aren't just like horrified by the very concept of Sonic at this point are like much more likely to be like playing games on the Switch than on the PS4 and the Xbox One. And that's like not like a dig on PS4 and Xbox One or anything like that, but I just think like there's so much negativity, or at least until recently, there's been so much negativity surrounding Sonic the Hedgehog that like, I just feel like there's not that many people that are willing to give Sonic a chance anymore that aren't like kids or like big time Sonic and Sega fans. And so like kids and big time Sonic and Sega fans to me are much more likely to be like playing games on the Switch and Nintendo platforms and stuff. I think Sonic didn't always do the best on like, you know, the Wii and the Wii U too, in comparison to those other systems.
Definitely with the GameCube. I think that was kind of the tipping point.
And with Switch being so popular and Sonic being a character that's really well suited for like Nintendo audiences already and stuff, I just feel like, it just seems like there's going to be more people interested in Sonic on the Switch. But anyway,
I do feel like Sonic Mania has been one of like the eShop mainstays. It's one of those games that every time I look at the like top selling eShop charts, like that game is pretty much always in there, which is crazy because I don't think it's gone on sale since it released.
Yeah, probably not.
On the eShop, where, you know, like, it's right in there with like obviously like Mario and Zelda and Mario Kart and Splatoon, but also like the other mainstays are like Rocket League, Stardew Valley, Skyrim has been in there a lot, but Sonic Mania as well as just always kind of in there, which is pretty cool. I mean, I would obviously, as a huge Sega and Nintendo fan, I would love to get more Sonic on the Switch for sure. I would like to see some of the classic games coming, some of the not so classic games also released on there because oh my god, I'm totally blanking on his name. Oh, John Carpenter. Did you see the article about John Carpenter?
Yeah, a while back. Yeah, that he like loves Sonic 2, right? Or just loves Sonic games in general, I guess. And
he loves Sonic games, and he's like, even the bad one where he turns into a werewolf. I even love that one. And I'm like, John Carpenter, you and me, guy.
Yeah, like, he's awesome.
Me too. I even love the bad Sonic game where he turns into a werewolf.
That's awesome.
That's great. That made me very happy. So, that's Sonic Forces. It's complicated or it's not. I like this game. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm considering. I'm interested in giving it a shot at some point. So, yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Well, that sort of wraps up this segment, but there's actually a bonus to this episode. A couple days ago, Lindsay and I recorded a short segment talking about our NYE 64 party, where we played a bunch of Nintendo 64 games on New Year's Eve. So we talked some N64. And then also she has played about, at this point, like 55 hours of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So she is kind of a bona fide expert on that game. And I have played not even half of that, which is funny. But we only have one cartridge in our household, so that's kind of how that's shaken out over break. So I talked to her about that. And then also she has been playing the new Style Savvy game on 3DS, which was released on Christmas Day on the eShop. So we talk some style savvy. And so that I'm going to attach that segment right when we go off the air.
Okay.
We'll lead right into that. So it's like a double episode.
Wow.
Bonus. It's our holiday gift to
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. And then I feel like Nintendo's going to be giving us a holiday gift soon with a Nintendo Direct. I mean, it's all rumors and speculation at this point, but it seems very likely. So we might be receiving our holiday gift from Nintendo in the coming week or two. And then we'd be back to record an episode about that, wouldn't we, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We will definitely be covering that if it happens. Also, are we gonna do a Games of the Year 2017?
I would like to. I would like to. I think so.
Okay, so maybe once things settle down, if there's not a Nintendo Direct, we will maybe do some end of the year thoughts. I think it's especially poignant this year because 2017 has been such a huge, crazy year for Nintendo.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe even just like we could even, like replace our what we've been playing segment for 1 week, for one show, and just do like if there's a couple news stories we want to discuss, and then instead of like our what we've been playing segment, just do like Games of the Year segment, or something like that. So
yeah.
Or maybe. Just do a Games of the Year show. I don't know.
Maybe. We'll or maybe a year in review.
Oh, a year in review. Oh.
I don't know. We'll let you know in about April when we get around to it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that wraps up our conversation here. In the next segment, I'm going to be doing all the typical end of show stuff, so I'm not even going to do it here. But John, where can people find you on Twitter?
Catch me on Twitter at ArcadeGhost for occasional retweets and 5 to 6 original tweets per week. So yeah.
Nice. Mostly about Star Wars.
Well, I don't know. Not really. I would say no. Because I have a whole separate Twitter account. For Star Wars. So
okay.
Yeah. No, just what do you call it? Like a actually, I don't know. I can't think of the term. Slice of life type thing. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of everything. A veritable buffet of
Americana.
A very average, dude. Yeah.
Nice.
Hard sell on this Twitter account. Follow me at Arcade Ghost. Yeah.
Cool. So
some wrestling. I talk about wrestling on there sometimes.
Yeah. That's a big use of my Twitter account as well, especially lately. Cool. Yeah. Also, we definitely will be having a wrestling episode. The notes have begun. The game playing has begun. We will definitely be doing a wrestling episode at some point.
Let's just pull the curtain back and admit to our audience that we were going to do this in celebration of WWE 2K18 on Switch, and then it turned out that's not worth celebrating. So we're going to do it maybe in Mania season instead. So
yeah. So look forward to that. But yeah. Okay. So yes. We're going to take a short break here, and then stay tuned for Lindsay and I on the other side. So bye, John.
See ya.